All right, guys, we're here for a special roundtable edition of the Tar Heel Illustrated podcast. This is the first time we've done anything like this before. Super exciting. We've got, people who are currently work for us. I'm sure you'll recognize some faces out there and some people who have worked for us and done some awesome stuff for us in the past as well. So we've kind of, it's a cliche term, I hate to say, but we kind of brought the gang back together, AJ. I think that's a good way to put this. Do you want to tell the people, we've talked about it in some of the podcasts we've done, but can you kind of tell the people why we're bringing everybody together when we are now and kind of what it has to do with the future of Tar Heel Illustrated before we dive in and have some fun?
Well, two prongs here. Most people now know that, I guess it was about 7 weeks ago, I announced that I was stepping away from Tar Heel Illustrated to find better life balance. I still want to do this for a living. I still want to grind my butt off, but I needed better life balance, and I articulated why. And then a few days later, we found out that On3 was merging with Rivals, and they're sort of consuming Rivals. And there's some other things at play that are forcing a transition at THI at the end of this month instead of because the whole network is moving over. But we would be in On3. My contract ends July 31st. We would be in On3 for a month. We both agreed that it didn't make sense for me to learn On3, to be a part of On3 for a month. So my last day at THI is June 30th, and that's all of our last days at THI. It will transition into On3, and there will be some announcements that we'll make in July about where I'm going and where some people might be going in relation to continuing to cover North Carolina in this market. So one of the things that Jacob and I talked about a while ago was doing a broad podcast. We bring everybody on and we just talk about the 11 years. Not everybody here was with me for 11 years. Dina's been with me the longest. I guess Jacob would be second. Bruce was with me at the very beginning. He and Dina were part of that first year, and Bruce used to travel with me a long time ago and has had the pleasure of being around me and having me get him into VIP places and stuff like that, because he couldn't ever get in there otherwise. But anyway, we just wanted to have some fun. August 1st, 2014 was my first day. That was the day Ryan Switzer did the Heisman pose with the team photos. And it's been a wild ride ever since. I'm completing my 29th year in this business. A 30th year will commence at the ACC kickoff in July. But I really wanted to get some people together that have been a part of THI, people that mean a lot to me. And there's some people that are not in this video that mean a lot as well. We just couldn't organize to get everybody here. And I just wanted to have some fun. We could tell stories about THI. We can get people's perspective about some of the most interesting things they've covered. I'm not the only guy that's been THI. I could put out 1,000 stories about this story when I covered this or when I covered that. In fact, I put out today, on Tuesday, a video of an interview with Theo Pinson after they won the national championship game, and juxtaposed that with Bryce Johnson a year earlier when I had to stand there and wait and give him a chance to finish crying before I started the interview. Bruce remembers that very, very well. Dina remembers that as well. And Jenna, you were there. You were there in 2016. That's when you and I met. We met at the Final Four in 2016. And you were there again the next year. In fact, I think in one of the videos, you might be in the background in the locker room. So you guys have had a tremendous amount of experiences. It's not just AJ. It's not just Jacob. It's not just David Sisk. It's everybody on staff has had a lot of unique experiences. So I think this is a great opportunity for us just to have an organic conversation. You guys to share some of those experiences. And if you want to roast me a little bit, that's fine with me. I'm always open to that. I figure that I started usually anyway, and you guys can kind of finish with Bruce is limited, because he could go on forever. This would be an 11-hour podcast of Bruce roasting me, and Kevin, I'm sure, can bandwagon on that too. So I say go around the horn and have some fun.
I'm already ready to correct you, because I was here 6 months before Jacob doing video. Yeah. I was also a moderator on the site for 25 years.
Yeah. Well, I was going to get to that because you were there, but we
started this site with Clint. Me and Clint started this site.
Well, it was when it was the message board, and then it was purchased. But you and I didn't have a working relationship until 2018. That's when you reached out.
It was before then. It was me and Jenna did video, and me and Jenna were doing. I was doing video, and Jenna was doing photography, and then Jacob came in either that basketball season after football.
It was November. I think it was November.
November
we started. 2018. I started in March or April, and he came in August. So it was only about 6 months. But
2017 for fall of 2017 for me, and then Kevin after that. I think that's
and then
right.
Jacob came in right after me. Yeah, that was the order of things.
Yeah.
I was. But I wasn't you were right, Andrew. I wasn't the Final Four. I just wasn't with THI at that time.
Yeah.
So.
And Kevin, you shot that. Was it you that shot that video of Nathan Elliott, that drive at Virginia from the end zone?
That one drive
he orchestrated like a 9-play drive that ended up with a touchdown, and it was beautiful.
One drive of his career. Yep, that was me.
Well, he reached out to me and asked me for that a few years ago because his grandma wanted it.
I still got it.
So I sent it to him. Look, hey, all things aside, Nathan Elliott, that staff was what that staff was, but they managed to get 3 300-yard passing games out of him in 2018.
Fair.
So that's a stat that no one would ever know. That's going to win you a bar bet somewhere.
Yeah, it's a stat of the day right there from AJ. Yeah, I love
He's coaching Salina High School in Texas now.
Yeah, I think he's day coach there or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think he's the coordinator. He'll be the head coach soon, probably. Anyway, go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah, I want to kind of go around the horn. We were talking about this off camera, trying to figure out the best way to do this so we don't turn this into a 24-hour podcast, which we could easily do. We might already be headed for that. So I think let's go around the horn, and I want you to give – doesn't have to be your favorite. I know it's hard. We were talking about it too. Sometimes it's hard, like looking back, especially the people who've been here for a while, like trying to remember, like, what was my most memorable game I covered? Or like, what's a funny story from a game I covered, or just a cool kind of behind the scenes moment from a Final Four like Jenna and AJ covered and stuff like that. So I'm going to kick it with Jenna first, because I know Jenna's got some motherly duties she's got to get to later tonight, and she's not going to be on here for too long. Jenna, if you want to give me your favorite story, anything that stands out, I'd love to ask you. I know I'm kind of going off the rails a little bit. I'd love to ask you about covering that Final Four in 2022, because I know that had to be pretty cool. You and AJ were there in person, I believe. I know we had I was kind of doing some podcasts from back here. Kevin was doing some stuff behind the scenes. So.
I'm going to send you a photo to run on the video, because I have some photos. We got some photos together there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I remember looking at Jenna's gallery. I still use some of those photos for podcasts today. But Jenna, do you have any stories or anything that stands out? Doesn't have to be from 2022 or anything, but like anything that comes to mind.
For sure, I have a couple. I'll quickly just go through, and then I'll tell you the 2022 one. So, without a doubt, one of the craziest stories ever was covering Zion when he ripped his shoe open. That was crazy, because that was actually the week that I found out I was pregnant. And that was just the craziest game ever. Like, it just, So that was one of them. Another story was the day I actually found out I was pregnant with my first kid. I met Michael Jordan, because he was at the UNC game when they played Virginia, and I got stepped on by Ty Jerome.
I remember that.
Stepped on me.
I've heard a lot of stories. I've heard this one.
Yes, that was awful, because, I mean, you're stuck down there on the line on the court. You can't move. I just found out I was pregnant after trying to get pregnant for 8 years, and I get stepped on by this guy, and I'm like, this is going to be actually more dangerous than potentially I'm thinking, but too bad, because I'm doing it because I love it. But yeah, so that, and then 2022. So 2022, we go down. Now, something to know about me is I actually did grow up a Carolina fan, but I pride myself on my ability to pretend like I love no one when I'm working. So I grew up a Carolina fan, loved them my entire life, thought this was like one of the coolest jobs, but also like I will never, ever break my poker face when I'm on the court. I love no one. So going and watching them beat Duke in 2022 at the national, well, it wasn't the national championship game, but it was the Final Four. So, oh my gosh, that's like Mecca, right? As like, I'm thinking of 5-year-old Jenna, just like, oh, this was the greatest. But I was pregnant with my second child then, and just every single TV timeout going and hitting the trash cans right behind us, hopping off the platform to go vomit. It was awful.
I remember you telling me that.
But
were you worried about showing any kind of celebratory anything in front of me? Because, you know, I've kind of hard-assed about that.
I don't think so.
I know that we have some fans on the site, but there is a line. Once you cross that line, you got to pull that stuff off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you and I think we always had an understanding that when we're on the job where it's a professional thing, and I would never ever do anything to jeopardize that. So, and I've had to cover at this point the Cubs, the Bears, Utah, and UNC, like all my teams. So like I can handle it. Yeah. In fact, like my husband always comments that I don't cheer the way that I used to now that I've worked in this kind of setting. Like even at home, like I'll cheer, but I won't cheer the way that I did before. He's like, you kind of lost that when you had to. So yeah, I don't know. Just honestly, some of my favorite times though were driving in the car with AJ when we'd had to go somewhere and talking about parenting, because I was a newbie, I was a rookie, and you were a pro. So
well, not a pro, just getting along, getting from one day to the next. Yeah, no, we had some great conversations. That's 7.5 hours.
So
my wife to this day thinks that you're an angel for putting up with me and not slicing me into 1,000 pieces, because everybody else would have.
Yeah, I can't imagine being in a car with you that long, AJ. No offense or anything like that. Yeah, Jenna, it was some of my favorite memories too. Just some of the stuff you do. It's like some of the little stuff too, just covering games, chatting it up, like some moments you have before games, just the conversations you have, the people you meet. Like a lot of it's like, it's hard to pick out like big moments sometimes. And a lot of it's just those little things you don't even think. But I didn't know the Ty Jerome story. And I didn't know you were puking at the Final Four either.
I remember this. By the way, also your total acceptance. And I guess Trey's never had the pleasure of being in a car ride with me, was getting the Tucker story, the Tucker Notre Dame story. I know Brandon got that on the way to Georgia State. Jacob got it on the way to Georgia Tech with me. Bryant, I haven't had enough time to tell Bryant. We haven't been in that situation. It's 26 minutes or 2 beers, however you look at it. And Bruce Young was on that trip. FYI, I had to peel him up from the pavement in the middle of some state highway in Ohio because he was laughing so hard about Tucker at 1:45 in the morning. But I cannot tell that story here, but I will tell.
It's a shame. It's a shame you can't divulge that on here.
So everyone else has heard the Tucker story.
Yeah,
Jenna got it on that trip, I think.
Yeah,
God, that's like a rite to passage.
And Tucker at the Final Fours too.
Well, don't like Tucker sleeping at the Final Four. So
you can sit on here for 2 hours telling Tucker stories if you wanted to, but yeah, sure. Jenna, that's awesome stuff though. No, it was great to kind of cover it with you, and I know everybody else here would say the same thing. So stay on here as long as you can. Feel free to butt in, but I'm going to keep it moving and pass it off to David Sisk, because I know David's got to get off a little bit earlier too. But David's another unique guy because, David, he doesn't live in North Carolina. He's our basketball recruiting guy for people who don't know. You've definitely seen it on podcasts and obviously on our website and everything and on all of our message boards too. But, like, David's in a completely different situation than a lot of us because, I guess everybody else on here in some capacity, has covered a game before. But, David's, kind of doing it virtually. He's kind of behind the scenes talking to people all the time and trying to dig up intel and everything. So, David, I can't really sit here and ask you like your favorite story from covering a game or anything in North Carolina. You've been to some cool camps and everything like that, but I don't know, man. What stands out when you think about Tar Heel Illustrated? It's probably got something to do with Andrew Jones because he's the guy you're sitting on a podcast and talking to for 2 hours about somebody.
Well, there's 2 things that come to mind when you brought this subject up. I was like, man, my life's around a laptop and a cell phone, but I miss Dina. I haven't seen her in a while, so it's good to see her. And she and I would always gripe because Andrew would want to do podcasts on Monday night, and that was when Monday Night Raw came on. So we missed that, and she would do her Macho Man imitation. So get Dina doing a Macho Man Randy Savage imitation. I mean, that's about as.
It didn't take long to derail, guys.
Like, you guys do know it's 2025. You can record these things, right? So you can go back and watch them when you're not there.
Yeah, but past my bedtime. But anyway, some of us have to get up next morning. But anyway, I guess the thing that I remember is when Andrew called me to offer me a job, and it was out of the blue. There was no text or anything to say, hey, I want to call you and talk about this. So Andrew will tell you, if there's one thing in life I want to do, it's play golf. That's all I want to do is play golf. So I am at the local course here, and the phone rings, and I'm going down, and I was walking the course, and I'm going down number 8 fairway, and it's Andrew. And he introduces himself, and he's got an opening, and he wants to talk to me about it. So, he goes into full negotiations right there, right off the bat. So, and I'm like, of course, Dana will relate to this. I'm like, who's this fast-talking Yankee, right? So he's
I grew up south of Mason-Dixon line, FYI.
No, you never know it by listening to you. But anyway, so you're giving me the spill, and I'm more into this golf hole because I remember it like it just happened. And I'm in the fairway. I actually hit a good drive, and all I'm thinking is I'm getting ready to make a birdie on this hole. Like I got a pitching wedge in. So you're talking, and I put you on a speakerphone and lay the phone down in the fairway. And so all I'm worried about is this next shot. So I'm picking the club and going through the pre-swing ritual and all that. Then I hit the ball, and I picked the phone up, and you had no clue anything was going on because you were still in the sales pitch mode. You hadn't. So I picked the phone up, and I'm talking to you on the way down. And the weird thing is, we had an agreement by the time I got to the green. But by the time I walked 150 yards, we had an agreement, and I was working for you. That's how quick it happened. That's how little attention I paid, number one. And number two, how quickly I accepted.
And he's regretted it every minute since.
Oh, that's good stuff. I don't know if that's a compliment or not that he didn't even have to pay attention during negotiations. I
remember when we brought David in, that was a tough sell because Clint was so well respected and did so much good work for a long time. And you had to sell David. People were mad because Clint had to kind of go his own. Clint was working his off, and he and his wife, I guess, were getting divorced, and he needed to spend more time with his daughters. And we brought David in, and I swear people were complaining initially because they swore by Clint, and within 2 weeks, David had the entire community wrapped around his finger. It didn't take long to win him over.
I had to do the same thing, working over to the Kentucky site too, because TJ Walker, that's who I replaced over there, and he was a big name, and so I had to do the same thing there. So fortunately, it wasn't the first time I had to do that.
Probably no death threats with the Carolina fans, right?
I've been fortunate, man. Everybody's been good at both places. Everybody's been good.
It's fantastic. AJ, do you have real quickly just any funny David story? I'm sure. I mean, the amount of pods you've done after like 10 o'clock at night is probably gotta be double digits, maybe not triple, but
a couple of times in the early Zoom days, there were times where I hit record and then hit unrecord and didn't know it. And David and I did like a 55-minute podcast one time that I didn't record. And getting David, this is back when David was also coaching. So getting him in season, like he and I usually it's Sunday nights. Sunday nights, 9 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock his time. That's when we would do stuff. And once we get done at 10:15, we can't do another one. So that week we didn't have one. I had to let him know. And that was that was an embarrassing moment. I had another embarrassing moment where I thought we did it when we were interviewing the guys from Tennessee about Ty Chandler transferring, and I didn't record that one either. So that was another good podcast no one ever saw. But I did that once or twice with David, and it was last thing I want to do is say, David, we need to do that again because it's so hard.
I think there was one particularly, and I don't remember what it was about, but I think we had to end up doing it about 3 times.
Yeah, I think so. And we were trying to recreate, and it's never as good as the first one, the one that no one ever
your gripes about your Wi-Fi. That's one thing I'll always. Your Wi-Fi's, and mine's been really bad too. That's why I had to before we come on go from downstairs to upstairs because mine's as sketchy as it gets. But your Wi-Fi gripes.
We should have THI bloopers.
Oh my God!
If I ever hear anything about your internet again, it will be the worst day of my life.
No, and did you change the password to the gallery? Did you change the password to the gallery?
Yeah,
how many times I would text Dina first because I know I could get away with bombarding her. I didn't want to bombard you that much. then she'd be like, I don't know. Then I'd have to text you.
Yeah, Dina was always the first step.
And I had them all wrote down, and I still have them.
I could almost see the smirk in your response. Like,
oh, speaking of Dina, here's another one. And Dina will know where I'm going because it was like clockwork. So if we were going to have a start at 8:00, I'd come on and we'd be sitting there and it's about 8:05. We get this text, running late, be there in a few minutes. Right, Dina? So she said, I don't even know what we get on here when we're supposed to. You know, it's going to be 15 minutes late every time. So that's another one.
This is slowly turning into the roast of AJ, which we could have just done.
As nighttime can be tough here with the noise that people like making, and 2 dogs, now just 1, but the dogs too. That's an excuse I'm making. So just, that's part of the life balance. That's part of the life balance. I was doing something right before we did here. I was doing some basketball thing. I just wanted to get out and put together. And then I had to do stuff. There were times where I'm like, well, we're going to do a pod, but there might be a commitment. And I'll have to hit pause, that kind of thing. You guys have all experienced that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then there's the Kim, will you get the dog?
Yeah, this is so good. I got to chime in because when David first said that AJ didn't, did a whole podcast, didn't hit record, I saw Kevin shaking his head over there. And then we've kind of gone into Dina can chime in on this too. There's probably some other people that can, but AJ, I'm going to give you a lot of credit because you have gotten a lot better. But there were a few years stretch where AJ's tech savviness was extremely questionable. And we'd be remiss if we didn't tell some stories about that. Not to turn this into the roast of Andrew Jones.
And then he used to tell us how he used to work for a computer company.
No, I studied computer science.
No, you didn't. That's a bald-faced lie. If you stutter computer science,
no, it's not. But keep in mind. But when I first started stuttering it, I knew so little that my first 3x5 card I made was on one side it was DOS, and the other side it was disk operating system. So I started from ground zero. I studied. I had my network certification.
I'm getting a headache just thinking about it.
But I sucked at it. That's why I left.
Who all enjoyed getting the emails? Please email me pictures. Don't text them. Don't do that.
Here we go.
I cannot figure out for the life of him how to get a picture from his phone to the computer.
Hours and waking up during the middle of the night.
It's an extra step.
35 text messages that he's not got the right size of photo. He can't find no photo. No rivals haven't got a photo of this person, so he's hunt all over the internet for a photo. So
we just need to let Dina go here because Dina can sit here for hours telling stories about this. I know she could.
Because
rivals don't have a photo of Michael Jordan. I need this now.
Dina used to hear a lot of it because she would sit. Dina was my shoulder sometimes.
Yeah, I'd be laying in the bed and my phone goes ding,
I'm actually,
ding, 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 ding.
What'd you say, Jenna?
I have to go and attend to my motherly duties, but I was going to say, AJ, don't let us roast you too hard because you have much improved, my man. It's good.
Yes. I know most of my passwords. I have them in this drawer right here. I write them down now. You're not supposed to do that, but I have to. So I have to hold my own hand. Thank you.
Anyway,
hey, Jenna, thank you so much for coming on.
You've been, guys. It was so nice to see
you're
everybody.
A friend. You're a great photographer, and you're a friend, and you're a great mama. And tell everybody what my nickname for you was once I found out you were pregnant.
Mama Photog.
Mama Photog. There you go.
Did you hear me? Mama Photog.
Yeah. All right, Mama Photog.
Good to see you, Jenna. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
See you, Jenna.
Bye.
Yeah, I could sit here and tell stories about that too, but again, I don't want this to turn into a roast session.
I think if you want views on this video, you got to just roast me.
We could. I think we could easily. I think part of this will be. Dina, let's stick with you for a second because you were in the trenches. I mean, more than anybody, serving kind of as AJ's number 2 for at least most of my tenure here. And before that, I don't know how far you even go back here. And obviously been our director of football recruiting. Like, I know you got stories for days. We can let you sit here and just let it fly for hours. But I mean, I don't even know where you want to start. Like, tell us about your time at Tar Heel Illustrated, Dina, because everybody knows who you are. If you've been on this YouTube channel before, you know who Dina King is.
I really enjoyed it. It opened up a lot of opportunities. I've met a lot of great people at UNC and, all over and everything. One of the best moments was me going in 2019 to the military ball.
Mm-hmm.
Me being a history fanatic, I had never been to Washington, D.C. So I go and meet up with Andrew in the middle of the morning, and we go to Washington, D.C. for Mac's press conference at downtown Washington. I can't remember what the hotel was. And, here I am.
It was a 5-star hotel that I was telling you stories about getting kicked out of there back in the day when I was traipsing around DC.
Andrew's trying to be a tour guide and tell me all these historical places and because I've never been to Washington. Well, we get out of the car and I'm like down in Washington D.C. and I'm like, I just was standing there stunned. I'm like, I can't believe I'm in the one of the busiest and the main thing in the whole world, Washington D.C. Where the most historical people in our world have been. I'm like, man, little old Dana from Yankton County here, big timer,
DC's never been. Let me add, by the way, you were petrified. You were petrified of every person we saw walking. I'm like, Dina, nothing's going to happen.
So, with Carolina plays Temple, and we're at the military ball, and we get I've experienced Andrew game day, bright and early. We get up really early, and we get caught in the military bowl parade. And I seen the side of Andrew I've never seen. Cussing, we were like rats that were caught. We couldn't find an exit ramp. And Kevin is over our text us. Well, I didn't have no trouble. I didn't. And I'm like hearing Andrew fussing.
That's because I don't wait to the last minute to go anywhere.
Yeah. And so
I'm early too. You're super
Andrew's
early.
like, we're going to be late for the pregame, all this stuff, but we made it okay and everything. And so I really enjoyed that. I hate to say it, but that's the last time Carolina had won a bowl game.
I know.
And I hate to say that, but I'm glad I was there and got to do that. And and we turned around and left that night, and I'm like, it was a whirlwind tour of Washington, D.C. And
I took you over to the University of Maryland to show you that.
We went over to Coldfield House and seen the what's it called, the new
Bird Stadium.
Yeah, the new basketball place at Maryland.
Yeah,
so
I guess it was Comcast Center when I used to cover games there.
It was a good trip and everything, and so. It's special because, like I said, I had never been to Washington, D.C. and everything. So, but that's one of my most memorable games.
What's the biggest complaint? What is the thing AJ complained about the most? Again, you were right there in the trenches with him. I mean, you were for a long time.
She can't reveil everything.
Yeah,
some of us are still on the call.
Well,
not getting content.
Yeah.
Well, when the website went down, he would constantly try to put an article up, and I see it plain as day. It's on my phone, it's on my screen, but he can't see it, and he's petrified that nobody's seeing it.
It's not there. I swear,
and stuff like that. So,
yeah, Kevin can relate to
it. But the pictures, having it the right size and trying to find pictures and stuff like that.
Good times. You wouldn't trade them for the world, though.
Yeah, but like I said, it's like I would go to sleep and wake up the next morning and have like 50 text messages from Andrew that he can't figure something out, and I'm asleep, and he has to figure it out on his own. Or being called or text that he's having trouble at the stadium with Wi-Fi, or nothing's working there, or he's been locked in a facility, or he's standing out there. Since I did work for Uber and hearing all kinds of Uber stories, and I'm like,
Dina wanted me to have Uber terrible travel so I could tell her another bad travel story.
Because I was like, I've done over about 3,000 Uber trips, and I hope none of my trips have ever been what AJ's experienced, So
you could say that you never pick up someone like me. I could say,
I remember the one when you were in Miami, and you was trying to tell the Uber driver, Dolphins.
Like I'm pointing to the stadium, and he had no idea what the hell I was saying. I mean, I think he just arrived like 20 minutes before he picked me up, and I'm pointing. I mean, you can see Hard Rock. Florida's flat, and South Florida's completely flat. You could see Hard Rock Stadium, and I'm trying to point to it, and he takes me and tries to drop me off in front of a cafeteria, like one of those H&W cafeteria, K&W cafeterias. And I finally said, "Let me out," and I walked. And by the time I got to the stadium, I was just dripping. And of course, I probably had murmured a few expletives by the time I got there. And it was just, I had probably my most fascinating Uber drivers in Florida. Although I had a girl one time in Pittsburgh, when Carolina played there on Thursdays in football, I would fly up that day, and just when I finished my work, I'd go to the airport, fly back at like 5:30. And I had a girl who picked me up outside the stadium in Heinz Field in Pittsburgh, like 2:30 in the morning. And she starts flying, said she had to get me to the airport by 3 to earn her bonus. I found out she had picked me up after bar hopping all night. And she was hammered, and she's flying like 90 to try to get a bonus. So I'm like, well, this is how it's going to end.
Yeah, Andrew could write a book on his travels. The Gulliver travels, the AJ travels. That would be a good seller.
It'd be a New York Times bestseller, that book. I'd read it, and I'll tell you that for free. I've probably heard all the stories by now, but I'd still read that book. We'll come back. Again, everybody get involved. Feel free. I want to keep this thing moving because I want to hear. Kevin, we've heard from you a little bit. I'm going to go to somebody we haven't heard too much from, and I'll come back to you. Bryant, I'm coming for you, one of our newer guys. But, man, you've been as entrenched in this as anybody, especially over what has it been? 2 years now? A year and a half?
A little over 18 months, 20 months. It's getting to that point, or close enough.
Yeah, you sat next to me in a press box, a press room, or a game, probably every game in this area code for the last 2 seasons for both.
Yeah, Brian's been all over the place. He's been absolutely all over the place with you. I mean, I never asked you, Brian, like real quick, like how did you, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Like, how did you get situated like with AJ and Tar Heel Illustrated and everything?
So funny enough, I'd seen Dina's tweet about her leaving THI. This would have been 2023 if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, I just kind of noticed that. And I remembered I was connected with AJ on LinkedIn, and I was like, well, let me see if I can find his email address or something and reach out to him. And so I found his email address, emailed him late one night. And funny enough, he emailed me back late that night because AJ's up till all hours of the day, morning. And then he set up a Zoom call. And I remember specifically he asked me, it was about UNC basketball. He gave me a little test. He's like, what 2 things is UNC doing wrong or need to improve on? I got one of the questions right and the other one did not. But here I am, been here for 18 or so months since then. Been to, like he said, any college that's close by UNC's played at, I've been there. Even when they played on the road, I've been up doing 3 things, writing whatever it may be, helping him transcribe however many interviews. But I'd say I have 2 really, not necessarily funny, but just fun memories. The first one was last season, UNC at Duke, the season finale when UNC clinched the AC regular season title. Our first time in Cameron Indoor. I'd covered college sports, NCAA tournaments, things like that, but never been to Cameron Indoor Stadium, much less for a UNC Duke game. And we got there super early, and we're sitting there just walking around the court, and AJ, he didn't say this verbatim, but this was the message, was like, can you believe this? Like, just look around and take it in. And that was one of those moments where I was like, as a kid, like someone who enjoys sports, I would like pinch myself. Like I couldn't believe I was actually getting to cover a UNC Duke game in Cameron Indoor Stadium. Super, super cool. And the second one would have been this past season when UNC went to Kansas and Allen Fieldhouse. I was like, man, like I have to go. Like, and I can't miss this opportunity. Who knows when it'll happen again? It's been like 60 plus years since the last time they played there. And AJ helped me get credentialed, got all that set up, and I got to experience a game in Cameron Indoor. Well, I guess this season too. But then got to go to Allen Fieldhouse, and that was one of the coolest things. Just to experience the game itself was a great game, but that aside, just being in that environment, in that arena, was super, super cool. AJ's been great in helping me with my career. He probably is sick of me, the it and the they, and I've been messing that up since the dawn of time. He would get on me about formatting and things like that. Those two moments were.
Carolina's an it. Tar Heels are a they, right?
Yeah.
All right. Good boy.
It took me some time to learn that too. I went to journalism school. It took me some time to learn that. I'm not gonna lie to you. That was kind of new to me when I started. I forgot you were at Allen Fieldhouse. I forgot that, man. That's awesome.
That was a lot of fun that night too. I mean, we had a good media. Rod Baxley was there, and IC had a couple of guys there, and there was some. And who was Chip there, or was it Luke from the N&L?
I want to say it was Chip, but I
think it was Chip. Yeah, it was a good crew. It was a lot of fun that night, and that was such a special place.
Yeah, I can't imagine being there. You have any stories from that game, real quick? I hate to go off on another side quest, but do you have any interesting stories from that game? Anybody? You and AJ in particular? Obviously, you guys were there.
It was just no. I mean, I think that Seth Trimble had a traveling contingent everywhere he went this year, and I remember seeing a bunch of people after the home opener and after the exhibition game. And I said something to him about it, and he was out with family. We were doing the interviews out by the locker room, Brian, if you remember, and there was that window there, and we're talking to Jalen Withers, and all these fans are on the other side of the window, and just it was highly distracting. So I walk out, and there's like a sea of 15 people around Seth, and I kind of poked my head, and I said, "Damn, you got to hear him everywhere you go," and that was kind of funny. He says, "Yes, sir."
It was this year's Cole Anthony. Remember that contingent?
Oh, well, that was a different crew right there.
The crew for a whole season.
That's I've heard from people that know Roy that was the most pissed off Roy's ever been in his life with that crew, that camera crew. That was.
I remember we went to, I forgot what game it was. I feel like was it after he came back from injury? I don't remember, but there was just like a camera crew all of a sudden. It was like just
it was like an early February game. And I swear, if anybody remembers the show Cheaters, those clowns that would go around trying to find people cheating, it was like the camera crew from Cheaters came in. I mean, dudes wearing sweatpants. One guy had his one pant leg up like this much higher than the other, and they look like the dudes who fantasize becoming Guido the Leg Breaker. It was a motley crew. It was a motley, and then his dad's doing the interview in the players' interview area. Remember that?
Yeah,
that was wild.
I do. I remember that, man.
I should probably shut my mouth now.
Yeah. I get in trouble too much out here. Yeah, that was.
People get the wrong impression.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment. But that was great. Now, Brian, it's been fun working alongside you the past couple of years, man. You've done a fantastic job, and people recognize you on here too on the YouTube channel. I mean, you've been all over the three things and doing podcasts and everything like that. So, yeah, it's crazy because there's so many people that have been a part of it over the years, and then it's cool to have kind of the crew together. I don't think we've ever done anything like that. I don't know if we've ever had the whole crew together at one time, virtually or in person. I don't think we have. So this has been fun so far. Trey, I'm gonna kick it to you. We haven't heard from you yet either. I'm trying to get everybody involved who hasn't had a chance to talk yet. Brandon, I'm coming for you, and then Bruce, I'm coming for you in a second as well. But I mean, Trey, you joined. When was it now? Was it 2020? Was it 2022, 2021? I can't remember.
It was around that time. I don't remember exactly. It's been a blur. It's been a lot. I get it. A lot of work. But it was around that time, man. I seen, I cover high school sports, and I seen Dina was covering high school sports and writing about the Tar Heels. And I knew her name, but I didn't know her personally. And I said, I want to do that. And I messaged Dina. I was like, Dina, this is who I am. I want to do this. Can you help me? And I remember she responds and says, no, not really. And then the next day she messaged me back, and we set up an interview with Andrew, and everything was good from there on. But man, I've had some great moments. my favorite game I've covered was no doubt Madison Square Garden, where Pete Nance hits the fadeaway at the buzzer to send it to overtime. Great experience, great facilities, just being in New York, as well as AJ let me cover the Tar Heels in Bahamas. I was going solo, and that was super fun, man. After the games, late at night, you go to the casino, and not just the Tar Heels, but the whole all the teams players were just all down there. Everybody just free flowing, talking, and it was pretty cool moment. One thing I love about AJ, it don't matter if we were in the Dean, it don't matter where we were at. AJ never took it for granted. He always appreciated the moment, always appreciated the game, and that made me do it as well. Never overlook the moment, never overlook, you never know when you get these opportunities and when you won't get these anymore. Another moment that I love, that was something small, but Jason Capel coming back to Carolina, fussing and throwing a tantrum after they beat Carolina because they disrespected him for putting the number 25 bench player on the game day poster. It was such a over dramatic thing, but it was just cool to see because you don't see that stuff, man. And I mean, it's just been a lot of great moments like that. It's been awesome.
Do you remember you would come to a lot of the Monday press conferences? We get Mac and the coordinators, and then we go up to the actual press box and do work. Do you remember the time that bird was in there?
Yeah.
We were trying to shoo that bird out, and the damn thing kept flying into the door. It was going the wrong way. And we went up there. They didn't have a home game that following weekend. I went up there the following Monday, and the bird was still there.
Where was this at?
The press box at Keenan.
Oh, Keenan. Okay.
Trey and I spent an hour trying to get that because the coaches' boxes are wide open all the time. We were trying to funnel it into the visiting coach's office so it would fly out. It took we tried for like an hour.
That was our press meeting.
Flying the wrong way and was getting more and more damaged each time.
Yeah,
that's what they made the Bojangles Chicken Supremes for our press meal the next week.
It was a little tough.
Freaking Sparrow.
I remember with Trey, my favorite moment with Trey, because you're a Knicks guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're at MSG, and we walked out on the court at about the same time, about 2.5 hours. Carolina played the first game. And I think that was when Jones Angel and the radio crew was just starting to set up. And we walk out on the court, and you stopped and looked around and said, man. I said, MSG. And you said, damn right. And I got I still have I'm going through my phone, moving photos over to my laptop, but also tweeting them out and putting them in different galleries and stuff. And I have about 3 or 4 photos of you there. And I remember how much that meant to you just to be there and see that. And I felt it too. I mean, I've covered a lot of games in MSG before, but one of the things I've always enjoyed about this, and I know that Brandon experienced it too, is that I love to see other people's first experiences.
Yeah.
When we went to the press conference, how cool is it being that close to Mac? I never lost sight of it. And one of the things that helped it was I brought in a lot of people who wanted to do this and wanted to see what it was like to do this for a living. And you got to experience that. So it's funny when Coach K was asked a question, or Roy, they were both asked questions about why do you keep doing it? They would always say, well, it's the first time for this team. I want to experience their first time. And I always enjoyed that with you guys. Even Jacob, I'll never forget the first practice. You walk out there and you're standing on the grass and there's Larry Fedora.
Yeah, I was like,
and I remember asking him, what's walking back? So how's that? You're standing on the field. He's like, this is cool as shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you first get into it, like it's the littlest thing. I think everybody on here can relate. Like it's the littlest things that are like the coolest. It's just like, oh, I'm on the field. Like, cause I used to watch the YouTube videos that you would upload or somebody else would upload of like the interviews. And all of a sudden, like I'm standing there. I don't think I asked Fedora a question. I might have. I don't think I did though. I probably didn't. I was probably a little nervous.
I remember you asked Roy your first press conference you went with Roy.
I did. I had to build up the
courage. Steve Kirshner reached out to me afterward and gave me a compliment about what a good question you asked.
Yeah. No, that meant a lot. That meant a lot at the time because I was new in the game, didn't know what I was doing. I went to school for journalism, but like I didn't know what I always tell people. Like I learned more. Honestly, I probably learned more within not even 6 months of working for Tar Illustrated, probably 3 months of working for Tar Illustrated that I did in 4 years of college. Like, because until you're in it, like you don't know how this business works.
Well, and there's also a way to do it, and every other way is the wrong way to do it. And you know how you guys know how I am with that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no wavering on that.
Yeah,
I'll never forget when I went to Wake Forest, the basketball game. It was the first time I ever went back in the media room, with Roy back there. And my sister went to the game too. And she was out there after the game, hanging out with the Carolina parents and stuff, because some of them knew her and knew me. And I told them. And so I made a major mistake of not muting my phone when I went back there at Roy's. And so I go in there and I'm already nervous. And I look to my right and Bubba Cunningham is standing to my right. And Roy's up at the podium and he's talking. And then all of a sudden, because I got my sister a distinct ringtone, it's like crickets. Well, that started going on while Roy was talking, and Roy just stopped and he said, "That sounds like Santa's sleigh bell." I felt like I was this tall and I was fiddling with my phone trying to turn it off. Bubba kind of looked at me and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. I said, "I don't know if I can show my face around Roy Williams anymore." I don't think he knew whose it was, but just knowing it was me. And the first thing I did when I got home was go home and listen to that interview on YouTube. And I heard it and I'm like, that's me. So that was my big blooper I ever done.
Very quickly, before we go any further, David, do you need to go? Because I know you said you couldn't hang on the whole time. I can't hear you. David's
on mute yourself, David. You probably.
Well, just when you need to go, if you can hear me, David had a bunch of stuff.
No, I'm good. I'm sorry I went the other way.
Okay.
No,
well,
I'm good.
If you need to leave, just pop off. Just wave and pop off.
Yeah, good.
I had
some things fall through. I was going to say, and I was thinking when you said that, you could have probably had Mac Brown vouch for you, Roy, because from what Andrew tells me, Mac Brown thinks you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. So
That's right. Mac and Dean are buddies. The only person that had any connection to the media that Mac's talked to since he left is Miss King.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I've tried.
Can't get it.
I just spoke to him on Father's Day. He congratulated me on the new deal and stuff. So I always have a special place for Mac.
I like Mac. It's just I wish it wouldn't have ended the way it did. And I think that he probably thinks that some of us didn't go to bat for him, but that's not our jobs. Our jobs is to kind of go down the middle.
Yeah, I got to go. I got to go in a few minutes. I've been up since like 5 a.m. and I got to get up at 5 a.m. to go to work. So I'll hang on.
Kevin, let's go to you, man. Because you've got stories for days too. You could sit here for hours.
And I can't remember this. I can't remember any stories. To be honest with you, ever since I went through chemo and radiation, my memory is shot. But
dude, I hear you.
I think the most memorable for me as a fan, other than the first time I walked in through the tunnel, the Dean Dome, it was like those the shows where you see this like this Jesus moment. You're walking through. It literally felt like that. Just still get goosebumps thinking about it. The first time you walk through that tunnel, and you see the banners hanging up, and just as a fan, it's intimidating. I can imagine an 18-year-old kid coming in as a freshman from Cal, and they see that. It does have an effect on people. And players have said that before in interviews, and it did for me as a 50-year-old. Well, back then I was 47, but as a 47-year-old man, it had an effect on me. But I'll never forget I think it was the first year. Yeah, it had to be the first year. They had some kind of reunion, and all of you guys know where the restrooms are, not to get too graphic, but where the restrooms are under the bowels of the stadium. So at halftime, I go to use the restroom, and you know how you're outside and the cloud goes over the sun and you see the shadows. I get the shadow of my left shoulder and the shadow over my right shoulder. I'm like, what in the world? I look to my left and there's Michael Jordan. And I look to my right and there's Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed Wallace, typical with his towel flipped over his shoulder. I think he never leaves the house without that. And I couldn't believe, and I looked and I just get a head nod from Michael Jordan. And I'm like feeling about this big because they're giant men and a giant personality. So that was probably the coolest thing I ever did. I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was probably like 2 months into because they did that. I think they did it at like maybe the first month of the season.
So you met Michael Jordan in the bathroom.
I didn't really meet him. I saw him.
Yeah,
I have a bathroom story. Let me interject here for a second. We send it back to Kevin. I have a bathroom story.
I've got a bathroom story too.
If you remember the old press room that used to be right where the tunnel where Carolina runs out before they moved it, the restroom was in the press room. And I remember at halftime, I had to use the restroom. I'm in line, and in front of me is Phil Ford. Right behind me is Tyler Hansbrough, and coming out of the restroom was Lenny Rosenbluth, 3 National Players of the Year.
That's pretty cool.
I only experienced that in that situation.
Bruce, do you have a bathroom story? I thought you just been.
Yeah, that one right there. The same thing happened to me in the Smith Center when the bathroom was in the press room, because I walked in there and I'm in line with those 3 people. And as a Carolina fan, that's just, like I said, we never spoke or anything like that, but that couldn't happen anywhere else.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think the coolest thing
is Tucker bathroom stories too that we can't talk. Look at Andrew.
I would say most of my memories I can't discuss here, but the coolest things, some of the coolest things, and Bruce can attest to this, being a photographer, and Jenna could when she was here, is being down where we're at, getting to hear some of the things that we get to hear that we can't share in the press, whether it's the coaches saying certain things or the players saying certain things to certain people and officials saying things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets said on basketball courts, as everybody knows, even the common fan, you pick that up a lot, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. It's pretty funny when you're sitting that close on the court. You get a lot of funny moments and a lot of interesting moments, especially in the Duke Carolina game. It's in Cameron. It's really off the chains. But before I go, I will say, you want to say my most AJ moment, or the thing that irritated me the most? There's two things. AJ.
It was like 2 nights ago, Kevin.
I know we get 2 things.
At 10:15 and stopped at 1 a.m.
2 a.m. But no, one of them is I'm never going to travel in an airport with AJ because every single flight he's ever been on has been canceled. I don't think he's ever been on an on-time flight in 15 years. Every flight's been canceled. I think he's been in
not because I've never missed a flight because I was late. It's always
14 cancellations every day. I think you've been in 7 plane crashes, and everything in an airport that has to do with AJ, I'm staying away from. Never, ever. I'm going to get in the airport with AJ.
Finally, it pays off.
And the last thing I'm going to say is, if I ever hear AJ tell me how busy he is and he never had a vacation, while he will text us while he's on vacation and tell us he's never been on vacation. That he'll say, I haven't been on vacation in 487 years.
How many days straight was he working? I heard that was another one. I heard that forever.
While he's drinking cocktails.
So many days without a day off.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
By the way,
I said, I'm working a full-time job and I'm doing a job for you too. So yes, we're all busy, AJ.
Kudos to you and Brian, because when I was at Jacksonville Beach last month with my wife, I didn't open my laptop for 4 days in one stretch. The longest stretch I gone previous to that was 26 hours. And you guys know I keep the stats because I keep numbers on everything. But I had 28 days off until that week in 11 years. So yes, I'm busy.
Kevin, those were 2 good ones. Those were 2 really good ones.
By the way, Kevin is, and this isn't mean anybody else on here is not passionate. Kevin is as passionate about THI as anybody I know. He wants badly for THI to get the credit we deserve on things, to get the recognition, for people to understand that, we've never had to write a retraction. He's very defensive about THI out there to what's said sometimes, and especially when there's some misunderstanding. And he backs it up with work ethic and with the fact that I'm not exactly having to send him fat Venmos every month as compensation. So if and when things happen moving forward, I hope to have Kevin as a part of that because he deserves it. And I've learned a lot from Kevin the last 9 months watching him fight through his cancer. And he's changed a little bit. He's actually a nicer person now than he used to be. He used to be a real a-hole sometimes, but he's a nicer person now. And I know that when Kevin goes off on me, it's all love. When Kevin goes off and he gets on me something fierce, and he's the guy that slams something down and walks out of the room. I'm not doing this anymore. I quit. 20 minutes later, he's back again. That is
Kevin
Kevin Roy.
Thinking probably.
That is the personification of Kevin Roy.
Yeah, I've quit 14 times this week.
One of my favorite things with Kevin, I know you'll find this funny. In one of our group chats with, I believe it's me, Kevin, Jacob, and AJ, any kind of relevant UNC stuff, football, basketball, it could be anything relevant. We'll send in the group text. And Kevin will send something, and AJ's just confused, asking what's going on, what this. And Kevin's like, AJ, it's two texts above. And AJ's like, I'm not reading that.
I'm not reading it. I got to scroll up. What do you mean you got to scroll up? You can't move your finger 2 inches up to the right to read a freaking text?
He's trying to, he's
the other thing I used to troll Kevin and Gerard in the group text about stuff like, you mean the NBA playoffs have already started? And they'd,
Who's Tom Cruise?
And Gerard would be like, AJ's living under the biggest rock. And I would just troll like crazy. I tried trolling Kevin the other day about, I think it was College World Series or something.
It lasted 30 seconds. I was like, screw you, I'm out of here.
I love trolling them. And he would get, AJ, where the hell you been? And it would take him a while to figure out that I'm just screwing with him the whole time. I would go to the market. I'd be shopping, and I would go into the text group and say, "Gosh, did you know that Pat Mahomes is signed a contract? He's going to be at the Chiefs next year." This is like 2 months after the extension, and of course, Gerard's head would explode when I would do that. And they would go for like a half hour before Dina would go in there. Come on, guys, he's just messing with you. You guys remember that stuff?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Gerard would just stay on it for like a day and a half, and you would just keep egging him on. And he swore up and down you had no idea who Patrick Mahomes was.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
That was one of my favorite things about covering games, honestly. It had nothing to do with the game. It was the fact that, like, we'd all be at the game and someone like Gerard would just be essentially, like, talking to themselves, venting in the group chat, watching a Carolina football game. It's just like 50 straight texts of Gerard just talking about the game.
talking to himself.
Yeah. That was the favorite. Everybody else is like doing so. He's just rifling the text though. It's just like, that's fantastic.
My thing is,
and it was certainly very sane stuff,
would
right?
be happening, and Andrew would be doing something. He'd be in the market. He'd always be somewhere, not around his. I got to pull off the side of the road and write this story. I can see Andrew pulling off interstate.
I did last week coming home from Belichick with Instagram. I was on the side of 40. Cars are just flying by. And
I can see a state trooper pulling up. Sir, do you have? Oh, I've got to get this article wrote.
Breaking news. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, he's done that about 1,000 times in his time.
I did a breaking news story on the side of the interstate in Indiana one time. I think that was Kessler That was Kessler hitting the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that, Dina?
A couple times.
Yeah.
Dr. Kessler.
One of my all-time favorite memories was, as y'all know, I had a strong connection with the Surratt family. Yeah, Andrew, you remember that morning that Chaz was going to flip from Duke to Carolina, and nobody believed me. I called Andrew that morning. I said, Andrew, Chaz is going to flip. He's going to flip back to Carolina. I just want you to, know that this is going down. And I was giving out hints, and everybody's like, "Oh, they didn't turn." I bet Bruce Young was just fussing. He's like, that Chaz, he's a Duke Blue Devil. He ain't gonna switch back to Carolina and everything. But he did. And I remember making that call, and you can go ahead.
You called me before 7 a.m. because that day Kim Ellie and I were going up to Baltimore to go see the Orioles play. We were going away for a few days.
Go ahead and do your imitation when I call.
She calls me up. It's like 10 of 7, and I'm getting stuff ready. I'm like, God, Dina's calling. What the hell? So I answered the phone. I said, what's up? Andrew, Chaz is going to flip the Tar Heels. Roy Dunn called him last night. He's going to flip. So we go back and forth. We get a little more confirmation. We run the story. People are thinking that we're crazy. And we've never run our traction before, so we were right again. And you were right because you were on top of that. And remember the other Chaz story?
Yeah,
was when he got hurt.
When he swapped, yeah.
He tore those ligaments when he dove after the Miami player who intercepted the ball for a touchdown. Yeah. And we reported that he was out for the season, but I had to kind of wheel and deal with Larry about that because Larry didn't want it getting out there. And I had it, and we had 3 impeccable sources on that one. So I'm going through the SID at the time and trying to get Larry to just say, okay, this is happening. Let's work, because you work with coaches, you work with programs sometimes on stuff like this. So the deal, but by the time I finally got Larry to, yes, okay, Chaz is out for the year, then I dropped on him that Cade Fortin was starting that week at quarterback. He's like, what are you doing to me? So we go to practice that day, and we had Larry, and we had already run our story. The deal was I'm going to run it at like 2:30, and I'll run Cade Fortin after Larry finishes. And Larry kind of broke his word a little bit. And this is statute of limitations. It's fine. He's a coach protecting himself. Someone asked him about Chaz. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. And he's looking right at me the whole time. So I texted Dina and I said, run Cade Fortin. He broke his deal. We're running Cade Fortin now before it's over with. And we ran it. And guess what? We were right on both accounts.
And the linebacker story.
Yeah, well, he decided to move the linebacker before Mac was hired. That stuff was done before Mac was hired. Mac had nothing to do with that, other than allowing it to happen.
Mm-hmm. That's Dina, man. She got those connections. You can get stories like that. Let me get Brandon P involved real quick because we haven't heard from him yet. And then Bruce, I'm coming for you. Save the Bruce for last. Brandon, I remember the first time I met Brandon, and AJ alluded to it. See you, Kevin.
See you later, Kevin.
Appreciate it, Kevin.
See you, Kevin. Hey, it was good to see you guys again. Y'all stay together.
I'll expect your text at 12:45 tonight.
You ain't gonna
Back
get it
to
from
Brandon. You got I'm going to reduce your mic background noise. We'll be a little birds chirping in the background right now. Beautiful evening in North Carolina. But I remember the first time I met you, AJ alluded to it earlier. It was an open basketball practice, right? It was Brandon and the other kid who I can't remember, who you said he couldn't cover a game and then showed up at a game in the student section. But I think it was an open basketball practice that year or something like that. Brandon, is that right?
Yeah, that actually is right. I was actually sitting here trying to think what was like my cool moment with THI, and you just reminded me. Going to that basketball practice was pretty cool. Got to sit behind a little press conference podium and pretend I was on a press conference. But that was like my very first day with THI. I felt like I was on a field trip with my school. AJ wasn't really putting me to work then. But I would probably say my favorite memory is driving down to Georgia with AJ for the Georgia State game. Yeah, the game was in what used to be Turner's Field. I'm a big Braves fan, so we were walking the concourse or the bowels of the stadium. I got to see like all the history of the Braves stuff there. So that was probably my most memorable memory that I have with THI. Just the whole trip, driving down there, driving back. Another one that I like is when UNC played Notre Dame, because I'd never seen Notre Dame in person. I just remember seeing those gold helmets for the first time. It was a very huge, very surreal moment. But I was trying to like hold it together because we were in the press, we were in the press box. But that was by far one of my favorite memories. And then a last story, well, not even a story, last memory is probably going down to Clemson with AJ. We went for a basketball game, and I don't know if you remember this, but if you watch the TV copy, you can hear Leaky's mom yelling defense over and over and over again throughout the whole game. So I just remember going down there, and that was like kind of the first time I realized how big of a brand UNC was. Like I've heard it before, but like when you actually go down there and you see how big of a game it was to them, to Clemson, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a very real thing.
Yeah, those are some good ones, right? I got to ask because you did 2 pretty long trips with AJ. I did a drive to Georgia Tech back in the day, and I don't think we had anything too crazy. I know there was like I think the only crazy part about it is we stayed in Augusta, and there was like a tractor trailer like on fire on the side of the highway as we like drove past it. It felt like we were in the apocalypse or something like that. But was there any hiccups in your travel stories? Because is a few people alluded to, there's never smooth sailing when AJ travels anywhere.
I mean,
something had to happen.
The Atlanta traffic is probably the only thing that really. I don't know. I remember trying to find somewhere to eat late at night, and I do remember that. I remember that being Because AJ has his diet restrictions, so I remember that being a big. To do every time we had to find somewhere to eat. I do remember that. But that was an awesome trip, though. It was an awesome trip. Got to see Marietta, Georgia. It was awesome. It really was.
Yeah, there was such a horrible stadium, such a horrible place for college football.
Yeah.
And I remember Mac later saying that it probably shouldn't have done that. They should have gotten out of that game because there was no point in being there. But that field, remember we walked on the field beforehand? The field was terrible. And I don't know. That was just, there were like 11,000 people there.
Yeah.
And that was actually the game. That was the game.
Ugly.
That was the game I got to take pictures for the person. I got to do photos.
That's
for the
right.
person.
You got a great photo of Marion Hampton's 50-yard touchdown run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and before that, I'd only done photos at a high school game. So that day was also the day I realized how much better the college kids are than the high school kids. It was a complete night and day, like how fast the game was moving and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a fun trip. We had great conversation too. You and I never. Yeah. I mean, none of us really ever did, but you and I never had like dead air.
Yeah. No. It was filled the whole time. It was like we should have recorded it. It would have been I don't know.
Well, we used to talk about how this would be a great podcast.
Yeah,
Jacob and I do that before we start recording. Well, we should have recorded this.
We talked for an hour before we started podcast. Yeah, you got great stories on there. Yeah, no, those are good ones, man. I mean, if you talk about some trips, obviously seeing Notre Dame in person and going down to Clemson for basketball, and I mean going down to Atlanta. I mean, those is three pretty. That's pretty good right there, man. But yeah, Brandon also helped out a lot on the three things back in the day, and I know a lot of people who watch on here have obviously seen him on the. I'm sure a lot of you have seen him on the YouTube channel too. So yeah, man, what was the years you were with us, Brandon? Do you remember? Like, what was it about? Was it 2 years, a year and a half?
Sam Howell's last year was my first year. Sam Howell's last year at Carolina was my first year, and then 2023 was my last year.
Yeah, 3 football seasons, right? Or was it? Yeah,
because it was seasons.
Yeah, 3 football seasons and 2 basketball seasons.
Man, you were in it though. Yeah, you've seen. I mean, I'm sure like I'm the same way. I can't think of half of it. I've been here 6 years. I can't think of half the stuff I've covered. But no, you saw some pretty interesting times in football too. I mean, they were pretty decent during that time period too. But
I came in during the time when I came in, it was like the all-time height of like UNC football recruiting. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I'm thinking I'm about to see UNC win a national championship for the first time. And everybody who's been a fan for a long time are like, oh, it's going to come crumbling down soon. So don't get too excited. And,
and unfortunately it
9-0 to 9-4.
Yeah, it was tough. That was a tough year to say the least. But yeah, fascinating to cover though, because it's just things absolutely flipped on their head back then. But Bruce, Brandon, we appreciate it, man. Stay on here as long as you can. Feel free to chime in. But Bruce, I got to go to you. I think you're the only one we haven't heard from yet. And it's funny, Bruce, because I think I've met you in person once, but I obviously came after you had already kind of left Tar Heel Illustrated. But I mean, when it comes to stories that I haven't been a part of that I've heard from AJ, you're directly involved with a very good amount of them. And you've probably got some absolutely fascinating stories you can tell. But give people a little background real quick, because people on the YouTube channel might not know who you are, but you were a photographer with us for how long were you with Tar Heel Illustrated?
Probably about 7 years.
I thought you were with us for a long time. Yeah.
And he started traveling with me back then when I was at Fox Sports. I think all the years I was at Fox Sports, Bruce would go to a game as a fan and just travel with me.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wow.
I did do that several times, but I got, believe it or not, I got into this. I'm a Tar Heel fan all my life, but I got into this because I would call in Taylor Zarz's radio show locally here in Raleigh. And I would cause so much havoc with Wolfpack people because I talk crap to them all the time that I got to know Taylor very well. And the next thing I know, he moves to Charlotte and he needs somebody to get interviews and take some photographs, mostly interviews for players and stuff like that, and send them to him in Charlotte. So that's how I got it. But my highlight was the day I met Andrew Jones, one of my heroes, because I know that's pathetic. That tells you how bad my life is. I went to the 2008 Final Four the year that we were down 40 to Kansas in the first half. And Taylor was doing a radio show with WPTF, and the great Andrew Jones was going to be on with him at Steers and Beers Bar right there in San Antonio. And so I was there, and that was the highlight of my sports thing at that time. Because listen, let's be honest. If you wanted to know what was going on with Carolina, you listened to Andrew Jones or Greg Barnes at Inside Carolina. But, you know, Andrew was very kind to me, and we became friends after that. But that's how I got started, because I would call into the radio stations, and the next thing I know, I was working covering the Panthers for Taylor, taking photographs and doing all kinds of things. And being a sports fan all my life, I didn't go to school for this. I'm a military retiree, and but I had watched sports all my life, and it wasn't brain surgery asking questions. And so I figured I knew a little bit, and I learned a lot from him because he's the consummate professional, as y'all know. And he taught me a lot. But y'all haven't done anything until you've gone a 15 to 17-hour car trip with this man to Miami or to Notre Dame and to places like that. I mean, you really get to know a person and how pathetic his music can be. And just we became really best friends. Matter of fact, he came to my wedding 7 or 8 years ago, and we've been best friends since. But a lot of the stories I can't tell because he's smiling, but there's a lot of fun times that I've had. I'm with Kevin and everybody else that has done this, and Brandon and Bryant, walking into these places as a Tar Heel fan for the first time. I was in awe, but to be honest, it was a dream come true as a lifetime Tar Heel, the opportunities that he gave me to do that stuff. And these are memories nobody can ever take from me. And I cherish the times that I spent with him, but more importantly, just to go out and all these places that I got to go to Florida State and be at midfield when the Chief Osceola comes out and slams that thing in the ground, out there with the blonde Adonis, Jeff Schottmer, and those guys. It's something I'll never forget. But I definitely see I had a different role than what y'all had. I had to be professional. Yes, I have a tattoo on my leg, and he did make me put Band-Aids on the Tar Heel one, but he did let me wear my Carolina jacket or something baby blue when we went on the road in the college football when I was on the sidelines. And so he did let me do that, but I did not cheer when I took photographs, and Kevin's gone, so he knows what I'm talking about. I wanted to so bad at times, but I didn't do that out of respect for him. But to be honest, I had a different role than what y'all had, because after the first couple of years, he found out that, I wrote some stuff and I did it as a Tar Heel fan. And I had a voice that Tar Heel fans didn't have. So I was able to say the things that most Tar Heel fans thought. And most of the time, I think Andrew will tell you that it got a very good response.
According to Bruce.
According to Bruce, and I'd come out with one of these and do one of these, and that's a classic photo that's still on the internet.
The photo that I used to use, the photo alone, you look so insane in that photo.
That's correct.
You should be convicted of whatever just because based on that photo, thrown into a slammer and the key tossed away.
Well, that's the way I felt.
You look crazy as hell in that picture.
Trying to see if I can find that picture.
It's on there. If you
TarHeelIllustrated.com.
Oh, I found it. That's good.
And I took that.
Look at his eyes. That's the look of a serial killer.
It is. But you know what? People loved it because I bashed Duke, I bashed NC State, and I was able to do that, which y'all don't get an opportunity to do that. Even if you're Tar Heel, like Bryant, as a Tar Heel fan, you're not able to do those things. And he allowed me to do it. So I was able to be myself, which might not be a good thing in some instances because to be honest, there it is.
Look at that. Look in the face. That's guilty as charged right there.
You see the price back there in the back? It was 60% off, sir. There it is.
Charged.
But,
that's fantastic.
I've been Andrew's bodyguard at Georgia Tech when he lost his wallet and the guy come up and started talking crap to him. I have protected him. He has protected me from getting thrown out of just about every stadium we've ever
when
been
Bruce had it out with a 72-year-old woman working a concession stand at Rupp Arena.
Yeah,
because at Kentucky, they would give us voucher cards. They didn't have a meal. So Bruce goes up and he's only got like $1 on his.
I had $1.
And he sits on the lady and she puts the hand out. She
went, talk to the hand.
Talk to the hand, and some usher, and David knows this, he's been to Rupp. They wear those Kentucky blue blazers. He comes over and says, "You better get your boy under control or he's going to have an issue to deal with."
I think you had a police officer do that.
Yeah, I had to get you back down to the media room, and all they had was popcorn. And of course, you were in a bad mood for the next 72 hours over it.
Well, I didn't have anything to eat. But anyway.
You sound like Foghorn Leghorn when you did that impression. I don't know if everybody from Kentucky sounds
absolutely. But there were places where
the lady at Georgia Tech.
The lady at Georgia Tech almost got thrown out of Georgia Tech. I
would go to games on the road with Bruce, and I wouldn't be sure I was going to be able to cover the damn game.
Yeah, I was going to say, was Bruce your biggest wild card, AJ?
But times 1,000.
That's correct.
Times 1,000.
Because I didn't take no crap off nobody, but I kept Andrew from getting his rear end whipped at the ACC tournament because one of the photogs down there, I accidentally put my foot over the line while I'm sitting with my legs crossed. And if you've ever been a photographer and sit with your legs crossed for a couple hours, I'm 65 years old, and when I did this, I was in my 50s, and I sometimes like to stretch out a little bit, and I had my foot over the line, and some guy said something to me, and he was real ugly about it. So I went and told him at the break, and he challenged the guy. What did he call us? We were blog boys or something.
Yeah, some fly by night blog or something like that.
Well, I lit him up like a Christmas tree. I even called the News and Observer, who he worked for, and reminded him that he shouldn't be talking to a military veteran like he talked to me. But I kept Andrew from getting his butt whipped because I think the guy was going to whip Andrew.
No, he was not. You're the one. You're the one his buddy wanted to kick. I had to keep you from getting kicked out of the ACC tournament.
That is correct. But like I said, I can't thank Andrew enough, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. He's got me through a lot of things in my life personally. I think we know each other probably too good, but I don't understand why Kim didn't think that I deserved wings instead of Jenna riding with you as much as I did, sleeping in flea bag hotels where you walk in, Jacob, and you walk into the room and you don't even take your clothes off. You keep your coat on and you put another shirt that you have in a bag over the pillow so that you don't catch anything. This is the kind of crap he took us to.
Yeah, I don't know if
this is the dog days. I never stayed.
You remember that because that was the day that Tucker exploded in the bathroom downstairs, and you told the lady at the desk, "Don't laugh." She said, "Do you?" She said,
"We're
"Don't
laughing."
laugh. I got to clean that up.
I have to clean that. That was at 4:00 in the morning.
And where were we at, guys? This is great. You get up. I'm in another room, and I get up to come out. I think it was in Pittsburgh or West Virginia, but I come out of my room, and there's yellow tape around Andrew's door. And that's because Tucker has done something in the room, and Andrew has slept out in his car all night long, and it's cold.
30 degrees.
I mean, he took one for the team that night, and the stories are endless. But Jacob, that story from Notre Dame is one that everybody in the ACC knows, and I got firsthand of it, and every bit of it is true. tenfold.
It's one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. It sounds fake.
No, it's not. I can promise you.
It's a movie. You could write a screenplay about it.
Listen, because I was riding down in the back roads of Indiana with my head out the window because, he had done something and he said, I think I hit it a little, dog.
I kind of hit it.
No, you didn't hit it a little.
The name of that
You didn't
screenplay
hit it a little. You did it.
I kind of hit it some.
Yes.
We can't go any more than that. We're going to get in trouble now.
I love Brian.
Rest in peace.
So much work.
The games were fun a few years ago, and Tucker told me, he said, "Dog, just make sure when you tell the stories about me, you tell it with love."
Well, he broke the ACC record for the most food ate at a buffet at Virginia Tech one year.
It was Haagen-Dazs bars.
It was great.
Kevin,
but something, we laugh at Tucker, but Tucker was a good friend and he had a heart of gold.
Yeah. And I met Scott Hamilton, who's a columnist in Charleston right now, counted the ice cream bar sticks at Tucker's spot, the ACC tournament. And this was on Saturday, and this is back when the title game was Sunday. He still had another game on Saturday and a championship game Sunday, and there were like 17 popsicle or ice cream bar Haagen-Dazs sticks right there at his spot.
And it was unbelievable. Tucker was not a member of THI, but he used our ink pens that he never gave back. He
would run our stories in his paper without letting me know.
At Notre Dame, he rode with us to Notre Dame, and he sat next to me. There might have been 3 keys missing off of his computer, and he was sitting there writing junior varsity girls volleyball stories. The first time we had ever gone to Notre Dame Stadium, that's when we wore all white and where we were up like 10-0 in the first quarter.
That's still the highest scoring game ever played in that stadium. And by the way, Tucker, I forgot what I was going to say now. It was from that game. His keyboard on his laptop, we used to estimate had about 4,300 calories on it.
But when you let him borrow a pen, you did not want it back.
He asked to borrow a Listerine strip from me one time. He said, "You never know when you're going to meet a pretty girl you want to kiss." Tucker's not here to defend himself.
Rest in peace, Tucker.
I did make Andrew mad one time to where he wanted to kill me, I think, at Annapolis.
Yeah, I did.
He's the worst driver in the history of driving.
That's bull. That is BS.
Because he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't listen
after you pass the right.
Jacob, can you mute him for a second?
I can mute him.
He had me mad as the dickens. I didn't even want to get off the bus. I didn't even want to get on the bus to go to the stadium from the parking lot. His driving skills I don't know what I was going through that time. It ain't no telling. I had to apologize to him afterwards, but he wanted.
That is not true. That is such BS. First of all, that's the one night during Carolina played Temple that night at the Naval Academy.
I loved it.
And Nate Britt hit a bunch of threes. And instead of covering the game, I'm Googling how to dismember a person's body parts and get rid of them and never get caught.
That was the night that Roy Williams lit Bryce Johnson up on the sidelines.
No, that was UCLA in Brooklyn when they wore.
Yeah, but he also did it. He also there were some things on the sidelines in Annapolis, but just being an Air Force retiree and being at the Naval Academy was something cool. But I saw things that Carolina fans can only dream of, and I owe it all to him. And I love him. He's a good friend of mine, and I've met a lot of lifetime friends through Tar Heel Illustrated. Brett Freelander is another one that we went on road trips with, and nobody's laughed harder than I have. And I appreciate y'all inviting me on.
Heck yeah, man. We knew we had to get Bruce on here to hear some. So AJ, real quick, first of all, I think Bryant's sitting over there like I've been in the trenches the past couple of years, but it could have been. He could have been a lot crazier. It's like,
I vehemently disagree with his depiction of my driving. He's the guy with the GPS telling you to take a right after you've passed the right. That's what created all the problems that night.
Who do y'all believe? Y'all known him.
Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments who do you believe, Bruce?
Well, you know what they're gonna say because it's more fun to rip on me.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah, but it's because we love you. That's why. And you're gonna be good because there's nobody in the business. And I've said this my whole career, and I'm not kissing his rear end, but he's the best in the business. And I was there when Andrew Jones was not very well liked by the coaches. Roy, I mean, he asked 2 questions, I think, over time that got Roy to drop the F-bomb on radio or TV. And I think Roy held it against him, but he hung around long enough and they saw that he was the consummate professional and the way he carried himself. And you look at him now, he is who they go to when they want to, because they trust him, and that's very rare in this business. But I was there when they did not like him, and it used to make me very upset because I knew him.
And what did I always tell you?
Well,
I'm gonna be front and center, front row, right in the middle, right?
And when he'd say,
Remember,
one of my jobs was to go get in the press room before he got there, get his seat sitting right front, smack dab. And I did that. I even did it to the point that at away games, I would go take their senior rider seats like at Virginia, and the guy would come up to me and move my stuff. And what did I do, Andrew? I moved his stuff right out of the way and sat down. I don't care who he was. I was with a rock star. I was with Andrew freaking Jones, and I could sit where I wanted to. Amen.
Okay, amen.
And that's a fact. Was I not, Andrew?
Yeah, you were. You were, but I'm a better driver than you. See, I'm a little,
I disagree.
missed with that one.
See,
I could tell them the Cracker Barrel story.
After everything I've said,
you almost got us arrested at Cracker Barrel.
Well, guys, you go in there.
Or how about that poor 16-year-old at Wendy's outside of Louisville? You made her cry behind the counter.
Hold on a minute. You go into a Cracker Barrel and you order a country fried steak with no gravy, and it comes out with gravy, and you ask her, that's not what I ordered. She takes it, goes in the kitchen.
No, hold on. You told her, don't wipe it off and flip it over.
And so she goes in there and takes a knife and wipes the gravy off and brings it back to me. And
all right, I'm going to finish this story.
Him and Brett go out to the car because they're scared.
No. Bruce lets her have it. And Friedlander's on this trip. Carolina played at Pitt on a Saturday, UVA on a Monday. So we drove up there. We're driving back. This is in Virginia. This is the Sunday before the UVA game was the next day. And Bruce then wants to speak to the manager. And Friedlander is like, oh, crap. He starts shoveling the food in his mouth as fast as he can, knowing we're going to get arrested or get kicked out or something. I didn't eat anything. And finally he finishes, and there's like corn kernels coming out of his mouth. He's like, we better get to the effing car. So we got to the car. We turned it around, faced it to the restaurant so we could peel out before the cops came. And we were going to leave him there because last thing we hear is he walks into the kitchen. I served 22 years in the United States Air Force, and I demand more respect than this. And I'm like, God bless. Get us out of here. Fortunately, we survived.
I love how you've embellished that story.
Brett Friedlander will back up every word.
I never went in the kitchen. They just shot me in the kitchen.
That's why we left.
But we had fun.
We had fun.
Yeah, you never forget those. You never forget those right there.
No, and I did get
girl at Wendy's.
And no, I didn't do anything to her. All I did was ask her why did she come in at 8:30 when her shift didn't start to 9. And Andrew made up. You know how y'all know how Andrew can make up a story about a situation. He can tell you what's going to happen. The woman got mad because I asked her a question. She quit her job, got pregnant early. Her father kicked her out of the house.
Don't reveal too much, okay?
Anyway, I do want to say something else, too. I got to meet another one of my heroes, and that's that young lady sitting in the corner down there at the bottom, Miss Dina King. I traveled we went to a lot of places with Miss Dina at camps and things like that, and I thoroughly enjoyed those times also. Andrew's right. She's the best in the business at what she does.
Nobody reads the TVs better than Dina King.
The main part was all one big family, and we had one goal is to bring, the info to the Carolina fans. And like many, I'm a Carolina fan, and it's different when you're working because you have to keep that inside of you. I mean, I'm sitting there watching, a Carolina football game or a Carolina basketball game and seeing Carolina score, and I'm just having to sit there like,
it's hard.
Yeah, and at my house it's totally different, screaming, that night Carolina, that night Carolina beat Duke in Coach K's last game. I'd be embarrassed to show the video of me and my aunt celebrating that victory because I look back at it and I can't believe I acted like that, but I know that game was just, nothing could top it unless they play for a national championship. But just the things that happened and the people involved in that game, it was so epic and everything. But I enjoyed, doing what I did. Like I said, I've met a lot of people all over this state. It's kind of funny. I remember the freak zone. What is it?
Freak show. North Freak Show.
And we went down there, and it was the first one I'd ever went to. And here we were walking out together. I think Gerard, and you remember Dolphus?
Mm-hmm.
He was with us. I can't remember who all was out there. Dolphus, and I hear somebody hollering my name, and I'm like, what in the world? And there's people in the stands. Now, Mitch Trubisky's down there that had signed, the Chicago. You had Mac Hollins there, all these NFL guys back, and they're hollering at me and said, Miss King, come over here and I want my picture made with you. And I'm like, what in the world is wrong with this fan base? You got Mitch Trubisky here, Mac Hollins, you're hollering to get your picture made with me? What in the world?
Bruce, tell her why. Bruce, tell her why.
Because she's a rock star, number one. Hey,
well, I would ride those buses over to the games, and I'd get there early, and I was like getting off the bus, and a couple of people come up. It's like, we know you. You're on them podcasts. You're Deanna. They call me Deanna.
I remember when you
did a podcast on my son. I had all these parents coming up like, you did a podcast with my son. You talked to my son. You're using recruitment. We want to thank you how you did this and that.
Bruce talked me into asking you to come on the podcast.
Yeah, I couldn't because I was
terrified. I was terrified what people would think of your accent.
I told him he shouldn't care because you were good.
Evidently, everybody likes it. If
that's why I do it all the time. I do a Dina impression every week when we tape a bunch of pods. Jacob, I do at least one Dina impression. I have to.
Mm-hmm. She's the only person on here I can understand.
I do them in the press room.
When
I do them in the press room sometimes. But Adam Smith loves it when I do a Dina. Adam can do Mac Brown. And I'll do Dean, and we can have a conversation. By the way, Bruce talks a little bit like you, David.
You got a little twang.
Well, hey.
Luke DeClark of the Raleigh News Observer comes up and says, I just love here. And I'm like, really?
I love the way you talk.
Yeah, I'm like, what in the world?
Hey.
But the worst compliment I ever got was, with NC Preps, I didn't do just only North Carolina stuff. I did it for all the kids in North Carolina. And I was down there. This is when Trenton Simpson originally committed to Auburn. And I went down there and covered it and interviewed him. And I gave it to the Auburn rival site. And they played that on there. And can you believe the Auburn fan base was giving me heck about my accents and said I was a Bama fan. And I was like, what?
David, we should make her a regular caller on Fine Bomb.
A Bama fan.
Yeah, she could be on Fine Bomb. That would be awesome.
Just call and talk about what you had to eat that day. That's the Feinbaum show. I ain't gonna eat nothing no Bama fan eats.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah, Andrew can do Coach Fedora really good, and
yeah, we got a little sample of it earlier.
My imitation really good, but yeah. Me and David, like David said, AJ say we're gonna be doing Zoom at 8:00. Me and David would just hang out for 10 minutes talking, 30. About wrestling and everything. AJ's not there. And,
well, you know what it is, Dina? You know what it is? AJ likes to post a story right before he records.
Oh, yeah. It was like clockwork.
Because I know
you'd see it on the phone pop up. I got to post this story. Got to post this story.
Dina
right
was
Jacob has that figured out to a T.
I know.
Dina was great. She'd tell me these stories of things that were going on in her hometown and places while we were waiting on you. And so she's going through the details of it. And you could have gave me 10 million possible endings. And the way these stories would end would not been it would have been the last one. It would have been number 10 million. I'm like, how in the world? Nothing I can share here. They weren't, but it's, there were some crazy things over there happening in her town, and I went, "Gosh, this is that wasn't on the bingo card."
David, she's in the Hall of Fame in her town.
Yeah,
she's in her high school's Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
she is.
Legend, man. She's a legend. That's why I call her rock star. So we're not just throwing that out.
Miss King.
Hey, it's like going to somewhere.
I remember talking to Chaz.
Andrew, it's like going to Clemson with Andrew, and we couldn't find our parking spot. So we pull up next to Little John, and the guy comes to the window and gives Andrew a hard time who's driving. And I reach over and go, "Do you have any idea who this is?" And he looks at me and I says, "It's Andrew freaking Jones of Tar Heel Illustrated." The next thing I know, we pulled right in next to Little John and walked right in. And that's a true story, because when they didn't know who he was and they tried to do, he wouldn't big dog himself, so I'd do it. He's a rock star around the ACC.
Hey, I'll tell you what I did. It's a rival story. It's not a THI story, because it was probably about a year before I joined. But I was covering basketball, and they had the Adidas Nationals of Spartanburg. So there was a tournament. It was either Nike or Under Armour was going on in Atlanta. So we drove back and forth. I wanted to see Tiger Stadium with Clemson. So we get over there, and it's like we're leaving. I think we saw the games in the afternoon. We're going back to Atlanta, and I wanted to go. So it was a Friday afternoon. So we get there, and you know how the stadium's configured, and one end of it's lower than the other one. You have to go up the hill. And I told the guy I was with, it was Sean Williams at the Vandy side. And I said, I'm going to run down the hill inside the stadium. And they've got it locked up. And he said, you're going to do what? I said, I'm going to run down the hill. Said, I'm going to do it. So there's no place you can get in, and there were cop cars up there at the gate where the Rock's at, and they were driving by every 30 seconds. And I went, I'm going to get arrested here. So we walk around, and on one of the sides, because it's going downhill, the fence, the chain link fence runs pretty well, even with one of the big concrete barriers, and you can jump over the concrete barrier and get inside. So I find a place that's not 3 or 4 feet. So I get over it. The next thing you know, I'm in the stadium. It's Friday afternoon, about 4 o'clock. And cop cars down that other side. And they got the Rock encased because, the South Carolina fans got in and chiseled it up, I think.
Yeah.
So sure enough, we go. I make a run for it. There's no bleachers on that end. I make a mad dash for it. And I'm in my early 50s. doing this. Okay. I'm not an 18-year-old kid. I'm a 50-something-year-old man that's going to run down a hill. So sure enough, I take off as hard as I could go, and I get there to the end, and I run down the hill. Same one Dabo and a team runs down, and I take off, and I go right across the field and right up the bleach, jump the fence, right up the bleachers, and go out where I came in. So that was
that's pretty cool. I like that.
I thought you were going to say you fell flat on your face.
I thought he was about to say that too.
You know, Bruce.
I couldn't build up enough speed to do that.
Bruce, you shot a game there, which was Deshaun Watson's college debut against Carolina in 2014, and he threw 5 touchdown passes.
I know one thing. That stadium I'm like David. That was somewhere I always wanted to go, and I got to see that. And if y'all have never been there, one side of that stadium, I don't know that I'd sit at the top because it doesn't go out at an angle. It goes straight up. And but that was a great I had a great time, and I got sick eating hot dogs in the 12-day-old hot dogs in the press box. I don't think Andrew did because he was always on the diet, but I did. And don't ever eat hot dogs in the press box at Clemson.
Or Georgia Tech, because
my little
Georgia Tech, they're various colors.
I got a cool little Clemson story. I was on my way back from Atlanta. It's when I used to do my high school football book, and all the colleges used to buy it around locally and everything. And I was really good friends with Dan Brooks, he had coached at UNC, he had coached at Tennessee, and he was the DL coach at Clemson. And Clemson would always get it. And he was like, D, just come over when you come through. So me and my sister, we go to Clemson, and I said, where you want us to be? He said, oh, just meet me outside Memorial Stadium. And he told me the exit, the entrance. And so we pull up there, and I was like, man, I've never been in here. He's like, well, I'm going to unlock the gate. You just pull through. So me and my sister pulled my car through Memorial State, Death Valley. And if you ever in Death Valley, you see in the end zones, there's 2 places where, they could pull some vehicles. And we pulled right there. We pulled out in the stadium. We got out, took pictures. I've got people hollering up there where David was talking about, up there at the Rock, screaming, let us in, let us in. And Dan Brooks, he said, he gave us some shirts. And I was like, man, I am about to use the restroom. He's like, well, just go in our locker room. And I'm like, I got to tell people that I have went in
bathroom story.
The locker room at Clemson. And when I went in there, I looked at I guess it's where they keep all their drinks and stuff. I thought I was at some grocery store that it just had energy drinks forever down through there. And I'm like, my gosh, what a place. But
Carolina, they have these massive baskets of energy bars, and they eat a lot of Rice Krispie treats there.
One thing, my sister, she Instacarts, and a lot of times she got Wake Forest's football order, and it's amazing what football programs will.
They love the applesauce and all that kind of stuff. It's wild what they had during practice. It's like watching kids 30 years ago at like recess or something. It's pretty wild what they eat now.
The day that I went and ran down a hill that night, it was the very same day, and you may remember the story, the other Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge at LSU. Do you remember the story about the guy that bought the prostitute, and they got in the stadium and did their business down on the 50-yard line, and they came in and got them and put them both in jail? Do you remember that story?
I remember a little bit about it.
It made headlines, and it was the very same day that happened. So I think his story would have been better than mine if I hadn't got arrested. That guy would have taken pressure off of me.
That would have been better than Dina using the bathroom in Clemson's locker room.
You remember Cole Anthony? That recruitment.
You were the only person in the media he talked to.
Well,
you drive up Oak Hill and see him.
I went up. They were playing some game at locally here up this way, and I said, I'm going to go over there. And here I go over there, and I come up to him and I start talking. And he's New York up and down, and here I'm like, just started talking to him, and you can tell his reaction, like, what in the world, but he started smiling and grinning and gave good answers, and when it was off camera, I was picking with him. I was like, do you like my accent? He's like, I love it. I love it.
I asked him about that.
Unique.
I remember the time when I told you a story. Cole used to wear a different pair of shoes when he missed those games. And I remember it was during that period he missed 7 straight games. And he was at the players elevator in the hallway out by the press room where you go, the visiting team's locker room, they got to go out and take that left. That elevator is the players elevator. And Cole, I was coming out of the restroom or something. I don't know what it was. And I saw Cole and I said, how many pairs of shoes do you have? He said, well, here I have 75. Back home, I have 300. And I said, by the way, so when you were at Oak Hill, do you remember a lady coming to do interviews with you that had a wild Southern accent? He started smiling. He said, Miss King? I said, yeah, that's her. She works for me. And he just had a big old smile on his face. You were memorable, Dina. People don't forget Dina.
It's like, I enjoyed covering and all these kids, and like I said, people have the mad perception. I covered, especially in basketball, I covered probably more kids that did not go to UNC, than went to UNC. I tried to cover everybody. Everybody remembers the Zion recruitment. Yeah. I took off down to Spartanburg. Me and my goddaughter, Makai, we were the first 2 standing in line for that. And it was like people were there 2 hours for the commitment. And we get into that gym, and I'm representing Tar Heel Illustrated. I think Jim Hawkins might have been there for IC. Maybe somebody else.
Wasn't Sherelle there?
Maybe Sherelle.
Sherelle was there,
The rest was Clemson people.
Because he told Clemson he was going there.
And so I'm in here and I'm like, oh, wow, and I'm going to be a trooper, I'm cutting, and he gets up there and pulls that Duke hat on, and I start snapping pictures because Rivals didn't have anything. Rivals didn't. You remember, I think Rivals had sent Carolina or Duke graphic. Carolina or Clemson graphic.
Because Shire was an assistant at the time, and he told our guy, nah, we're not going to get him. We don't stand a chance. He told us he's not coming. So Shire put the scent away from them so they could win the battle bigger. That's why Rivals didn't make a graphic for Duke.
Well, I took a picture of Zion.
That was the game that Shire was playing already. He's shrewd.
I took a picture of Zion with his Duke hat on, and it made the front of Yahoo Sports. I'm like,
and by the way, very quickly to clarify, the reason we would get that from Shire is because my recruiting guy also did Duke at the time.
Yeah, but I thought that was so cool that they called and asked me, can we use your photo? And it was on the front of Yahoo Sports. Because everybody, I was afraid after that because there was some mad Clemson people.
There were,
very mad,
including Brad Brownell. I've known Brad for a long time, and I'm glad to see his success now. People have now forgotten about the Zion screwing them over. Jacob, we're probably getting long on this.
Yeah, I was going to wrap it up here in a second. We're about to get the 2-hour mark here before it's too long. But AJ, you've been kind of sitting here either getting roasted or hearing some of these stories. You got any quick kind of closing remarks or maybe one story maybe you want to drop on us that hasn't been heard on a podcast before? Because you got a lot. Save it for the book.
But I have so many. To be honest with you, everybody that's been on here, I have special stories and places for each of you guys and the ones that have had to go because there's no way. I know that a lot of people, associate me with THI, but there's no way THI could ever have become what it was without you guys. And every one of you has always been grossly underpaid from day one. I have too, but you guys have been grossly underpaid, and that has always been something that has been very important to me. And yet the loyalty, people grind, as much as you guys talk about the how awesome it was and the moment of your first few times being in these environments, after a while it is work. And that's why most people don't stick it out, because it's a ton of work and it's crazy hour work and late at night and all that. And people usually don't last, but this group has helped pave the way and helped me with however people perceive me out there, because I couldn't do it all alone. And I've been able to have you guys along for the ride, help you guys have experiences that you otherwise maybe wouldn't have had, and also helped you get better in certain areas. I enjoy that immensely. I don't think my criticisms have ever come across the wrong way. It's more, hey, let's just get better, because most of you guys are athletes. You've been coached. Coach doesn't hate you if he tells you to change your batting stance a little bit. He just wants you to hit the ball and help you hit the ball, so you change your batting stance some. But it has been an incredible run, 11 years. It's the first time the only time in my career I'd ever covered just one program, one school, because I always covered all the other schools. When I was at Fox Sports, I did the whole ACC. I did the Hurricanes, the Panthers. Look at that. I did the Bobcats before they went back to being the Hornets. I've covered a lot of stuff, but the most rewarding experience of my professional career so far has been THI, because I have worked the hours that Kevin said I complain about. And it's true. I never said on vacation that I don't get time off unless I wasn't able to, except Gigi. Gino, remember that. I'm at Jacksonville Beach on my solo end of season trip, and I spent the entire day in a hotel room waiting for Gigi Jackson's commitment, and I missed that whole day at the beach. I was supposed to be on my one solo day off at the beach that trip, so I missed that one. But it's a labor of love. I love doing what I do. I don't do it for myself. I do it because it's something I absolutely feel like I need to do. I'm wired to do it. I'm built to do it. But I'm also built to do it with people being along for the ride and to help. And you guys and the others that were on and some that haven't been on have all been a part of that. So THI has been very successful. When I took over, it was an afterthought. I know that there are certain people that take offense to that, but it's true. And I've been told that. And we are now we are the number 2 media outlet, one of the top 2 media outlets covering North Carolina. And it's not because of AJ. It's because of all of us. We've all played a role in that. And I'm forever grateful. And whatever happens next, whoever's along for that ride too, I don't know. Nothing's been ironed out yet. But we will be better moving forward because of this experience. And our subscribers and our readers and everything else, it's been an amazing experience getting to know people. It's rewarding, and the challenge is rewarding, reporting to a fan base, especially in basketball, that knows its stuff. So you have to be damn good or they're going to call you out on it. And that's one of the reasons why David has been such an awesome addition to what we do, because I trust David's perspective on basketball more than any person I know. And I know a lot of coaches and I know a lot of broadcasters, and I trust David sis numero uno on that. So I'm grateful for him and for all of you. And Jacob, dude, you have improved so much.
I appreciate that.
You have improved so much that I get tremendous satisfaction and joy out of seeing how you handle the things that we do. And last year when you said you were going to do some solo drops, I'd be like, oh man, I don't know. And you did them and you pulled them off. And it's a testament to how far you've come. So Bruce, our road trips, memorable. You almost got me killed a few times, got me arrested a few times. Bryant, keep plugging away. Whether it's in my operation moving forward or not, keep plugging away. I'm always a text away. I'm there for you no matter what. Dina, you and I are lifetime friends now. And you have been someone that I've vented to a lot about THI, and you took it. You put that shoulder out and you said, okay, AJ, let me hear it all. And you gave me perspective at times and pulled me from the ledge a few times yourself. So I very much appreciate you guys and the others that were on here, and all of the subscribers, all of the readers, all the people who comment, the people who give us crap and don't like us. It's all the same. You're never going to be liked by everybody. Each of you, when you came on board, what did I say? early on. You're never going to be liked by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be people out there that don't like you for 1,000 reasons, and they're all out of your control. And as long as you do a good job and you're correct, don't say stupid stuff, and know what you're talking about, you're going to be fine. And that's generally how we've been. So,
yeah, no, well
thank
said,
you.
man.
And thank you for taking the time to come on here. Bruce, thank you for staying awake.
Yes, sir.
It's past your bedtime. You're an old man.
It is. Yes, sir.
You know, when the sun starts to set, people like you got to hit the sack.
You ain't the only one, man. It's getting late. It's getting late over here.
And David was going to get off early. I appreciate you sticking and you getting a chance to rekindle your flame with Dina. And Bruce ought to be an honorary member of your club because I can't understand some of the stuff he says.
He's from North Carolina.
I got to give a shout out to Bubba, my dog, for being a good boy, not barking and interrupting this podcast because he loves to start barking when I get on the phone. So he's been a good boy today.
Good, Bubba. David, what'd you just say?
I was going to say, Bruce is from North Carolina. That's what he's supposed to sound like.
Thank you.
That's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like, Andrew, before you guys came down and took over the triangle.
Well, I will remind you, I was raised in Northern Virginia. I was raised 92 miles from the capital of the Old South, capital of the Confederacy.
I'm a big fan, David Sisk. I just want you to know that, sir.
I appreciate that, buddy. I really do.
I really am. Thank you, Jacob.
Beautiful stuff, man.
And by the way, if anybody has listened to the end of this, reach out and let me know. And once I get settled and can announce something new, maybe I'll have something for you. I don't know what it is. I just want to reward somebody who's stuck it out this long.
The two people.
And let us know in the comments, should Bruce keep that hat on, that helmet on for the rest of his life? Never take it off.
I'm wearing it to work tomorrow.
I love it, man. It's fantastic.
You need to wear it into like a.
Hey, I've got 2 evictions that I'm unfortunately having to do tomorrow in Vance County, and I'll show up with the sheriff tomorrow with this on. What do y'all think?
You may need it.
It might keep me from getting shot, but I'm gonna wear it to work tomorrow.
I love it, man. I think we should start wearing it on our podcast, AJ. We should both get one and just start repping that.
I'm going to mandate that Bruce covers up his tattoo anytime he tells somebody he knows me. On that note.
Oh, God. On that note, I think we can wrap this thing up. We're getting out of here.
I got to go watch the Orioles.
Y'all got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. Bruce got to go to bed. David's actually an hour behind, so he's got a little bit more time to work with, I guess. But, yeah, it's getting late over here. Big thanks to everybody who stuck with us. Means a lot. Appreciate everybody who watched from minute 1 till now, especially. And even if you haven't, as long as you tune in this for a little bit, we appreciate everybody. And if you're a subscriber, watch one of our videos in the past, watch every YouTube video we put out, read 2 articles, or read every article we put out. We appreciate you being along the journey with us over here at TarHillIllustrated.com. Stay tuned, like AJ said. Hopefully some things to announce about the future sooner rather than later, but still pending in that side. But yeah, guys, we appreciate it. As always. And I'm still going to do it, AJ. I'm so used to doing it. Make sure you like, make sure you share, hit that subscribe button too, and the notification bell. And we will see y'all next time. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks.